Hey there, it's Mitty. Welcome to my channel. Today I wanted to talk to you about a particular prompt on our short story readathon bingo board, and that is essay. Now, we have lots of prompts on the bingo board, and you do not have to do any of those. You read whatever short stories you want to and just make it fun. If you have a collection you've been trying to get to, just read that. I just want it to be lots of fun for everybody that is participating. So we are hosting the short story readathon during the month of May, and I am hosting it along with Karina from What Brings Karina Joy and Chantel from Chantel Reads All Day. And I will leave information about all of this in the description box in case you haven't heard anything about it. But on our bingo board is essay. That's one of the prompts, and so I thought I would talk about it specifically because it's a little different than everything else on the board. So I love Ray Bradbury. If you follow my channel, you know that I have been reading Ray Bradbury short stories. I love his writing. He's most famous for Fahrenheit 451 probably, but he's written tons of short stories. And he was just a brilliant writer, and he had a lot to say. But I discovered his secret. And what I mean is, I have watched a lot of interviews because I found him to be such a fascinating person. I've watched a lot of interviews with Ray Bradbury. And one thing that he would always say for aspiring writers would be to write a short story every week. Try to write at least one short story every week to get good at it, basically. So that's what he did, and that's why he has so many short stories. But he also gave the advice to read one poem, one essay, and one short story every day. And I tried that, and it was amazing. All the different ideas that would bubble over because I was reading so many wonderful poems, essays, and short stories. And I was introduced to some wonderful writers during that process. So I still take that advice, and I do like to incorporate poetry, essays, and short stories into my everyday reading. However, when I was going through this experiment, trying to practice what Bradbury had mentioned, I had trouble finding essays. I could find plenty of collections on short stories and plenty of poetry collections, but not essays. So I would just go online and kind of Google essay on a particular topic, and I would find them that way. But last year, my son gave me this book called The Glorious American Essay, 100 Essays from Colonial Times to Present. Now, I will say I haven't read these yet. I'm going to start reading them for this short story readathon, and I'm not going to just read one essay. I'm going to try to read several essays. I'm going to do the prompts if I can, but I'm not too worried about the prompts. I know we have the prompts, but I'm going to read what I want to read. So that's just how, even though I'm hosting this readathon, that might be against the rules, but that's what I'm going to do. So anyway, I just thought if you could see if your library has this would be a great one to use for essay. Now, if you don't live in America, you might not be interested in these at all, but there are some that you may be interested in. For instance, it starts with Cotton Mather of Poetry and of Style in 1726. And the second one I thought was a great one. Most of us have read this one. I know I had to read this in high school. And it is Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God by Jonathan Edwards. So I thought, as an essay idea, you might could find an old sermon by maybe Charles Spurgeon or a famous preacher that you could read for essay, and that would be good to fulfill that prompt. He wrote that in 1741, and so I have actually a little pamphlet of that separately, but I do plan on rereading that one by Jonathan Edwards. There's also several in here on other things that aren't necessarily American. There's some on John James Audubon wrote The Passenger Pigeon in 1835, so that's probably just excuse me, talking about the pigeon. There is some on just reading. One is by Zora Neale Hurston, How It Feels to Be Colored Me in 1928. So there's lots of different takes on all different kinds of experiences as an American, but also just as a person in general that you probably would be interested in regardless of where you're from. So this is just full of lots of essays that you could choose from. I mean, 100 essays. Surely we can find something in there that we would want to read. And I do love Ray Bradbury's idea of reading an essay every day. And I think he said for like 1,000 days. But, you know, obviously he took his own advice because he had so many wonderful ideas that turn up over and over in his writing. And you see that over and over. So you know that he was well read because he would just dip in and out of all of these different writers' ideas and experiences. And that's a great way, if you're not able to travel a lot of places, reading these essays is a great way to travel vicariously through their thoughts and experiences. So I thought that was good advice from Bradbury. So I'm definitely going to be picking up this book during the month of May for essays. And I also have this one. I've heard about this one several times on BookTube, and that is Why You Should Read Children's Books Even Though You Are So Old and Wise. And that's by Catherine Rundle. And it's actually been printed in this little book. And I just thought it was super cute, so I just picked up a copy. It's not that long at all. Of course, it's just that one essay in here. So I'm definitely going to try to read this one too. So maybe you could find essays on reading, on maybe a certain essay. I know Harold Bloom, the famous Harold Bloom, he would write lots of essays on Shakespeare and Jane Austen and other people. So you could find maybe a critic on one of your favorite authors or a favorite book, novel that you've read. So there's lots of different opportunities to read essays online if you don't want to purchase a book, or if your library doesn't have any. But I'm sure that your library probably has some essay collections. Just type in essay collection and you probably could find them that way. So this is what I plan on reading during the month of May for the essay prompt. Again, I'm not going to read just one. I'll probably read several because I do want to read these in this book, and there's a lot to choose from. So what are you reading for the short story readathon? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you soon.